All right, what is going on, y'all? I am your host, Dominic Pasella, with my co-host, Madison Holder, and welcome back to Bottom of the Sixth. Madison, how we feeling today?
I'm feeling great, Dom. I'm feeling great, Dom. There was a lot of NFL and college football news this weekend. I'm really excited to go over it. It's a beautiful Monday night.
Yes, it is, and let's get right into it. So I want to start with the WNBA, something that doesn't get talked about enough, but I think it should because Caitlin Clark is officially the LeBron James of women's basketball. Have you seen what she's been doing lately?
I have. I think that she has completely changed the culture of women's basketball, and it's really exciting to see.
Yeah, most definitely. So let's just get into it. After scoring a career high 35 points against the Dallas Wings yesterday, she officially broke the record for most points scored by a rookie in a season in WNBA history with 761. This is after that she broke the record for most assists in a season in WNBA history, not for rookies, overall. Most assists in WNBA history in a season, and most three-pointers made by a rookie in a season. I mean, like, come on, come on.
Yeah, I think she's a beast. She's just so impressive in every aspect of her gameplay, and I think that she has really just elevated the game of women's basketball as a whole, and she's brought a whole new light to women's basketball and also just the WNBA. I think she inspires so many young girls and women, and she also is just making it more popular again, and she has increased record sales and views this year, and it's just insane to watch. And I love watching her gameplay. Like I just said, so impressive. All the stats you just listed are insane, so she's goated for sure.
And I think it's like you said, the culture of the game is completely different. People care about women's basketball. Like back on Twitter, people would just say, "Oh, women's basketball sucks. Nobody's watching that," and that would be the only negative comment. And now, like, I'll go on Twitter and see the same people tweeting about women's basketball like it's the NFL. Like they'll tweet discourse. They'll be like, "Oh, this player sucks. She can't do this." They're watching. They care.
I
And
agree.
I've been watching women's basketball since I'd say 2019, 2020. Sabrina Ionescu in college, she's my favorite player. She back when she was on Oregon, she still is now on the New York Liberty. She was kind of the one that like put me on women's basketball and actually enjoying it. And it's just it makes me happy to see that people care about the game.
I agree, and I can't relate to that. I wasn't a WNBA fan or even a women's basketball fan until recently. Caitlin Clark definitely had that effect on me, and she made me more interested in women's basketball. And I was a little into it at first, so I can only imagine what she's done for people that had no idea about it. And also, like I said, young girls that play basketball, young women everywhere, women that want to play basketball. I think that there's a certain stigma surrounding that sometimes, so it's really exciting to see everything that she's doing for that industry as a whole and people watching. But let's hop into some NFL news. It's a Monday. Yesterday was a crazy day for NFL, to say the least. I'm a little upset about my survivor pool. We'll get into that in a little bit, but Tua Tagovailoa this past week had a little hard hit. The Miami Dolphins were crushed by the Bills at home on Thursday with a final score of 31-10. Tua Tagovailoa threw for 3 interceptions, 145 yards. He took 1 sack. He did not have a very overwhelming game performance, but then he took a hard hit from Bills safety Damar Hamlin in the third quarter, and it was ruled after the game that he had sustained a concussion, making it his third sustained while playing in the NFL. And that doesn't sound like a lot, 3 concussions, but Tua has only been in the league since 2020. He was drafted in 2020. That's 3 concussions in 4 years, and he had 2 concussions alone in the 2022 season. He is just increasing his risk of long-term health complications like CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy. If you don't know, that's a neurological disorder caused by repeated trauma to the head. And Tua's health is insane. Like, what do you think about it, Dom? Do you think he should retire like people are urging him to?
Yeah, if you look, Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce and Hall of Fame tight end Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez is probably the best tight end of all time. Just throwing out a personal opinion there. They're saying that he should retire. He's only 26, which is extremely young, even for NFL. But when you look at what's happening to his health, it's only going to get worse. He won't be able to complete sentences by the time he's 40 if he still plays and gets more concussions. But I understand why he wouldn't. As a person who played high school football, who got a concussion in high school football, I was definitely concussed, but I did not get it diagnosed because that means I couldn't play. So I think if his passion for the game is like most athletes, he won't say a word about a concussion because that means he won't say anything about his health being detrimented because he'll still want to play in the NFL. And you look at the money he's making, you can't throw away, I think it's $260 million about.
Something like that.
That's just that's something that you can't throw away if you have the option to. And I think if he's forced to retire, then he keeps his guaranteed money, which I believe is 160 million. So I don't know. I think money is going to have to play a huge factor, but come on, when you're getting hit that hard, and he does it to himself. Like you said that he was hit by Damar Hamlin. If you look back at his clips where he's gotten concussed, he spearheaded into Damar Hamlin right into his chest.
It was a head-on collision.
It was 100% Tua Tagovailoa's fault, because I was watching the game, and it was like watching a horror movie. You know, you're like, don't go in there. Don't go in there.
Don't go into the closet.
Don't lead your head into Damar Hamlin's chest. Oh, he did it.
Rammed right into him.
And as soon as he went down with his head first, I was like, yep, there he goes again.
Yeah, and if you didn't know, Tua Tagovailoa played for Alabama. Head coach Nick Saban, who's now retired, was talking on a show the other day, and he was saying that that's one thing that he has always struggled with in his gameplay, is that he just doesn't know when to stop the play. He was trying to get that first down, and he head-on collision with Damar Hamlin because he just doesn't know when the play is over. He didn't slide. He just tried to get those yards, and so it was totally his fault. And I think that it's hard because, like you're saying, most athletes, especially in the NFL, have that drive where injuries are not going to stop them from continuing to play. But like you were saying, professionals are urging him to retire and just saying you need to make that medical decision at some point. And I think that he is so young. He's 26 years old. He has had a really good career with the Dolphins. He has made plenty of money for generations to come in his family. But after signing a huge deal like that, it is hard to give up. And the Dolphins are building their franchise around him. He is their star player. Only person I've heard in the past few days say that he shouldn't retire is Mike McDaniel, because he is building that team around him right now.
Yeah, I would say Tyreek Hill is their star player. I mean, he's a top 5 receiver in the NFL. But yeah,
Tua's star players. Let me rephrase.
Yeah, no, Miami Dolphins team is stacked, and I feel like Tua has a lot to do with that. But I think you have to put the person behind the athlete. As a human being, Tua is great. He's intelligent. I mean, to be an NFL quarterback, you have to be one of the smartest people, not on the planet, but one of the smartest people that you know.
For him as a person.
And I don't want him to end up like Chris Benoit. I don't know if you've heard of Chris Benoit.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, and his situation where he was a former pro wrestler and his finishing move was a diving headbutt off the top rope. And this is my example for when people say pro wrestling's fake. He made it a little too real. He just lost his marbles and ended up causing severe harm to his wife and his son and then himself. So I don't want him to become crazy and lose his marbles and get CTE and go down that route, because CTE has affected a lot of athletes. You look at Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah, exactly.
You look at guys like that, and it's just really scary what brain damage can do.
It is. It completely alters your personality, and it rewires your brain in a horrible way. And exactly like you're saying, I have so much respect for Tua as a person. I would call myself a Miami Dolphins fan, and definitely a Tua Tagovailoa fan. I think that he is an amazing person and an amazing quarterback, but I think I agree with the professionals, and he should consider retiring.
Yeah, and it sucks because he's only 26. I don't think he's going to. If I was him, I wouldn't, because that's just the former athlete in me is, yeah, professionally it seems like the smart decision, but like passion outweighs intelligence sometimes, and that's just the way it is. I can't relate.
I'm not a starting quarterback for the NFL, but you know who is Jared Goff. You want to talk about his performance yesterday, Tom?
That was an interesting segue. And should Lions fans be concerned for the team after Jared Goff's performance yesterday? As a diehard Detroit Lions fan, the short answer is no. Agree. Goff had an atrocious performance against the Rams yesterday. He still had a 60% completion percentage, but you look at the tape, and it looked like he didn't know what he was doing out there. And it was just really sad to see as a Jared Goff supporter. I believe he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, but he didn't show it yesterday. I think he really kind of crapped the bed. He only had a 36.1 QBR, and just watching the game, I was like, come on. Like, the offense didn't have a lot going for them, and it just made me mad. Offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, who has been hailed as the best offensive coordinator in the NFL, failed to see the fact that half of the Buccaneers' defensive linemen were hurt, and he called 55 pass attempts while only 20 run attempts. And you look at what happened with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs last week.
Exactly.
David Montgomery was running through everybody, and Jahmyr Gibbs is super elusive. They both know what they're doing on the ground, and they did not get a chance to show that skill set because we were very pass-heavy, and it just wasn't working, and we refused to change. And I think
agree.
that's what made me mad about yesterday.
The fact that they didn't adjust when they were seeing how the defense was playing was hurting me because, like you were saying, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs both had insane games last week, David Montgomery especially. So seeing them not get their moment again when the opportunity, in my opinion, was right in front of them was hard to watch as a Lions fan.
No, it's just one of those things you can watch. And Amon-Ra St. Brown finally had his I'm back game after a bad performance last week. He had 11 catches for 117 yards.
119 yards.
119, I apologize. And it was just one of those things where it was a very quiet 119 yards. You didn't really notice that he was racking it up, but he was. And Jamison Williams also had himself a game. And it's just one of those things, There's definitely room for improvement on offense, especially, but on defense, Aiden Hutchinson had a solid performance. Not solid, a great performance. He had 4.5 sacks, 4 of which coming in the first quarter until they finally adjusted. And defense was Detroit's primary struggle last season. It was a major talking point on why they didn't make it to the Super Bowl or why they struggled against teams like the Baltimore Ravens, especially with that defensive line in the secondary. But the past 2 weeks have shown major growth. Like I said, with that D-line, James Houston's back and healthy. DJ Reader came in. Aiden Hutchinson has been doing fantastic in his third year. And the linebackers have been doing great too, like Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes. So despite that, the team still lost while only giving up 20 points. The offense really needs to come out with a major game next week because that offense has all the weapons in the world. You have an all-pro receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have, who I still believe is a top 10 quarterback in Jared Goff, even though he didn't show it this past week. You have 2 electric running backs in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And you just have to see where that takes you. And with a coach like Dan Campbell, who's a MCDC, baby. Great coach, great human being. After the loss yesterday, he went to the podium and said that this one's on me. He took full responsibility, was brought to tears about it because he's a guy that cares about his players. He shows his humanity, and that's what coaches need. He even cooked up that fake punt from the Lions' 20-yard line, and it worked.
Great.
So you know that the passion's there. That's been one of his major talking points. But the Lions just could not get it done yesterday, and we're going to have to see what happens next week in Arizona State's backyard, State Farm Stadium, where they play the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes, and before I talk about the Cardinals, just want to say Dan Campbell is my favorite head coach in the NFL, not only because I'm a Lions fan, but because what Dom was saying, he is a fantastic coach and an even more fantastic human being, and taking full responsibility for losses is so respectful, and I think that's part of the reason the Lions are going to do well this year, as they've already displayed. I think even after their performance yesterday, they are going to do well. They did well last year, and I think that leadership within their organization is something that carries them farther than other teams.
Yeah, and just to go off that about Dan Campbell, he's exactly what Detroit needed as a coach. And I'm not just talking about the Detroit Lions. He turned around the culture of Detroit. He fits the mold beautifully. Do you know the catchphrase, get grit or all grit, how the team is all about grit? And I think that's something that's reflected throughout the city. That's something that's reflected throughout my family. My dad's an auto worker in Detroit. I'm from near the city. I understand how it works. And that's just how it is. It's people who are gritty. It's people who are just locked in. And I feel like he just represents the city so well. And it's beyond football at this point. Dan Campbell is an icon in Detroit. I hope he stays for a long time. But definitely some things that the team has to clean up.
I agree. But like you said, they are playing Arizona next week. And speaking of Arizona, Marvin Harrison Jr. had a breakout week yesterday. The Arizona Cardinals have been proving themselves as competitors, but they did that this weekend. They crushed the Rams 41-10 to win their home opener. And just last week, they gave the Bills a competitive game when they lost with a final score of 34-28. So they're doing pretty well compared to previous seasons. But pregame odds were even for this game. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. just broke out. People were questioning his performance or his athleticism after his week 1 performance versus the Bills. He had 3 targets, 1 reception, and 4 yards. I was shocked, even though I'm a Michigan fan. I don't like Ohio State. I was shocked.
But can you really blame Marvin Harrison for that? I mean, Kyler did not have a great game.
Oh, we'll talk about Kyler in a second.
Oh, yeah, but he only had 3 targets is the problem.
Yeah.
So he really just needed time to get it going. It was his first NFL game. You can't expect greatness right off the bat.
I
He's not a
agree.
Caitlin Clark. But
I agree. And then this week is insane in comparison. I wasn't questioning his athleticism last week like most of the population. This week he had 8 targets, 4 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 130 yards, and he was averaging 32.5 yards a reception, which is like a third of the field.
Randy Moss type beat right there. You love to see
He
it.
was doing so well, and I'm so happy to see that for him. Again, even though he's from Ohio State, I respect the guy, and I think it's insane. The Cardinals need a player like that. They've been waiting for this moment, I think, with their rebuild. And in between, I'm just going to talk about Kyler Murray a little bit. In between those 2 games, their first game with that poor Marvin Harrison Jr. performance and yesterday's game, after that first game, Kyler Murray was telling reporters during a press conference that performance was not his job.
Okay, this
Quote,
is something
unquote.
that like geeked me out because as a quarterback, it is your
It is
job to find an
quite
open
literally
receiver.
your job.
When he was wide open, you have to see the wide open man as a starting quarterback in the NFL. What do you mean
And
that's
he's
not your
sitting
job?
there telling
That is
reporters-
literally what you get paid millions of dollars to do. It
He's
just
sitting
did
there
not make
telling
sense to me.
reporters, well, sometimes I have to scramble. It's really not my job to see everybody open on the field. It quite literally
Maybe
is
it's
in
because
your
you can't
job
see over the
description.
offensive line.
It is in your job description. And I am not the biggest Kyler Murray fan, but that's besides the point. And now I'm thinking, like, he would not take credit, clearly, for that poor Marvin Harrison Jr. performance in Week 1. Now that Marvin Harrison did so well this past game, I'm wondering, do you think that Kyler Murray should be like, yeah, it's my job now. I did great. Because he did perform pretty well yesterday.
Oh, that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, come on. I'm not a Kyler Murray hater, but when you say something like that, it's like, all right, bro. Like,
That aged beautifully, didn't it?
you're going to – he stepped up. Kyler stepped up. Marvin Harrison Jr. stepped up. And he looked just like his dad out there.
Agree.
Marvin Harrison Sr., absolute legend with Peyton
Agree.
Manning back on that Super Bowl Colts team. So, I mean, I'm just happy that he's getting his reps. He did a fantastic job. I mean, 2 touchdowns in your second ever NFL game is absolutely insane. I don't think people were calling him the next Calvin Johnson, the next Megatron, and I think that's just laughable. As a Calvin Johnson fan, like my son's middle name is gonna be Calvin. If the wife agrees, we'll see.
That's in Dom's, like, what are they? Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, it's the fantasy. Any women out there who want their son with the middle name Kelvin, please hit my line.
First name has to be Stafford. if you
Oh,
don't know
first
that
name
about
is Stafford,
Dom,
though.
too.
Stafford Kelvin Pasella.
He's got an NFL lineup going on the baby name list. But
Yeah, nope. NFL players only, Detroit Lions players only. Sorry, if you don't like it, you can leave. But anyways, back to my point. He won't be the next Megatron. You won't see 2 people pressing him up right out the gate. But he will be a solid receiver in the NFL. If you don't have him on your fantasy team yet and he's on waivers, go pick him up as soon as you can. You will
Agreed.
not regret
He's
it.
only going to get better.
He is. And that was against a Los Angeles Rams defense who has proven to be pretty solid this
Yeah,
year.
and that was an even matchup. The fact that they blew them out of the water like that had me shocked. As somebody who is from Arizona and has seen the Cardinals let me down year after year, I was shocked at their performance. But
Yeah, and I think another shocking performance in the NFL was the Bengals versus the Chiefs.
oh boy,
Mahomes versus Burrow might be my favorite rivalry in the NFL right now. It's very, I don't know, would you consider it Peyton Manning, Tom Brady-esque?
I don't know. I think it's a good rivalry. I don't think it's as much of an even matchup. Maybe that's why I don't like it as much. People could argue with that, but I think that the offensive gap between the Bengals and the Chiefs is insane, to say the least. I don't know. My opinions on that kind of change, but this game yesterday was just crazy. I think it went against everything I think about that rivalry.
Yeah, the Bengals had that game won. They performed better throughout it, but the Mahomes magic, the referees magic, I don't know. I think the Burrowhead nickname is finally over. You know, I never really got it in the first place. They got 1 win there in the AFC Championship, and all of a sudden it wasn't Arrowhead, it was Burrowhead. And now the Bengals have lost 3 straight in Kansas City. So I feel like the Bengals really set themselves up there. You don't talk bad about the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what I've learned. It's like saying Beetlejuice.
I am not a Kansas City Chiefs fan, at all. I will just say right now I'm a Kansas City hater. And this weekend, first and last time I was rooting for them because I took them in my survivor pool. I'm sitting there thinking, I haven't won. This was a safe pick for me. Then Travis Kelce comes out with 1 reception for 5 yards, and I was gagged. I thought I was about to lose in my survivor pool, except then they came back with that field goal in the last 30 seconds.
It's obvious he spent this offseason too busy with Taylor Swift.
I saw more Taylor Swift yesterday than I did Travis Kelce.
That's true. Who's bringing in more money, though?
Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, Travis Kelce, it's going to take him a minute. He always starts the season slow, and that's what I've noticed about the Chiefs is you'll talk about him in the postseason, but early in the regular season, you don't hear a lot about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Completely
They are
agree.
quiet. They will have a decent season until the last few weeks, finish 13-4, and just dominate in the playoffs.
I agree, but I think the Bengals also notoriously have slow starts, especially Joe Burrow. And he didn't throw an interception, yesterday. He threw 2 touchdowns, and that was crazy compared to Week 1. He threw no touchdowns and had a QBR of 47.5 Week 1. I don't know. He starts so slow, and he concerns me sometimes. Like yesterday, I was concerned. I thought I had it in the bag, and then he came busting out. And also Jamar Chase, he's got an absolute beast in Jamar Chase. Why is Jamar Chase playing football right now? He still has not signed a deal.
The love of the game, man. I mean, that's the only way you could put it. I'm telling you, these guys love ball.
I hope they continue to not win until he signs, because that man needs his money. And he has not been performing well either. He had 4 receptions for 35 yards yesterday. I wouldn't be performing well either if I wasn't getting my money.
I mean, yeah, but he wants more than Justin Jefferson, and he hasn't proved it yet. So I guess we'll see how that goes. Justin Jefferson had a crazy game, too. Did you see that 94-yard touchdown?
He did, but then he went out with an injury. So
He did.
That's sad to see because I'm a big Justin Jefferson fan.
I don't mind Jay Jettis. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown will be better eventually. Justin Jefferson's probably the best wide receiver in the whole NFL right now. And he's electric. I think he's doing well for the game, too. Kids love him.
Agree.
And he's just one of those stars. He reminds me a lot of Anthony Edwards in a way, like in the NBA. I mean, I know it's off
That's a good
topic, but
comparison.
the way that Justin Jefferson composes himself, great guy, great for the sport, like the gritty. Nobody was doing the gritty
You can't fight the
before
gritty,
he blew
come
up.
on.
And I just thought that was really cool. A lot of people don't even know where it came from. But yeah, he was doing that back at LSU, back when he was doing the get too.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that 2019 LSU team. I wish there's a way for Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase to team up, but realistically,
In another life, maybe.
if salary cap was unlimited, maybe. But unfortunately, it exists. It exists for a reason, or else the Cowboys would probably win every Super Bowl, because Jerry Jones will always keep his pocketbook open when it comes to football. And he proved that with the Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb deals.
Well, let's talk about another quarterback. Let's talk about Bryce Young being benched with the Panthers today. That was breaking news this morning. Andy Dalton has been declared the starter for Week 3. This was an adjustment that they needed to make because the Panthers were 2-15 last season. They finished worst in the NFL. They had Bryce Young he was the definition of a bust in 2023. He had a QBR of 34.1, and then he was 20th in the NFL with 2,877 passing yards, which isn't the worst in the world. But yesterday against the Chargers, he had 84 yards. He had no touchdowns. He threw for 1 interception. And I think there were hopes that he would adjust in the offseason after his debut rookie season jitters from last year had subsided, but they have clearly not, because he's had 245 passing yards between his 2 games this season. He's 31st in the NFL, and his current passer rating, Bryce Young's current passer rating, his QBR is 8.9 for the 2024 season. 8.9. For reference, a perfect passer rating is 158.3. That is insane.
Okay, yes, Bryce Young isn't great at the sport of football. He was at Alabama. He won a Heisman.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, when you get placed in 3 different coaching systems in 19 games, I believe it is, I don't know what they really expect from him. If he can't get comfortable with one coaching system, he's not going to do well. And when you look at who the Panthers have, it's just not fair to the kid, man, to bench him this early. At least let it ride out at least halfway through the season with a coach.
I think they let it ride out long enough with his season last year and then 2 games so
But they're
far.
on their 3rd coach. It was okay, yeah, if this was all under the same guy, it would kind of make sense. But I don't know.
I think they did. I mean, they didn't even make any valuable changes to their roster in the offseason. Not really notable trades or draft picks, because they gave their pick to the Bears, who took number 1 Caleb Williams. I'm sure they're regretting that deal from a year ago.
Oh my God,
But they sent DJ Moore over there, and now they've got DJ Moore, Caleb Williams. I don't know. The Panthers are just a hot mess in my opinion. Fun fact, shout out to my dad for telling me this. The other day, a pair of tickets to the Panthers game sold for $1.80. That's
insane.
$1.80 for 2 tickets.
Okay, but like I'd rather go spend $1.80 on like a Twix bar or something.
I agree. It's just insane. Like the Panthers are, I don't know.
It has to be a money laundering scheme at this point. Like there's no way a football team can be this laughably bad and there's not something behind it. Like you have professional football players and you are getting smoked like this every week. Yeah, Dan Morgan definitely needs to be fired. You look at what he's been doing and it's just miserable to watch.
Yeah, honestly, do you think that benching Bryce Young is going to like salvage their team? I think they're already past the point of no return.
They are going 0-17 this year and probably for the next couple of years unless they get something finished.
We'll quote that at the end of the season when it happens.
Sounds good.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, you want to do a quick rundown on college football?
Yes, let's do it. Let's hop in real quick. Michigan announced that they're going to be starting Alex Orji in week 4 against USC. That is a huge adjustment that they need to make. I think Davis Warren is rightfully being benched. He, so far this season, has thrown for 444 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. 3 of those interceptions were in the last game alone against Arkansas State. And even though they won that game 28-18, they did not perform well. There's a difference between winning and performing well, and they didn't do it. The run saved them for sure. Khalil Mullings had an awesome game. He had 153 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Returning running back Donovan Edwards had 1 touchdown. They had 1 pass touchdown, and that came from Alex Orji. So I think that he is rightfully starting next week, and I'm excited to see if that helps Michigan at all, but I do think USC will be taking home that victory, and I'm saying that as a Michigan fan.
Yeah, it might be over for U of M. No Harbaugh, no JJ McCarthy, no Blake Corum. It might be over.
Their entire offensive line.
Yeah, and just real quick, I want to talk about the Pac is back. The Pac-12 just announced that on Wednesday night, 4 teams are going to be joining the conference for the 26-27 school year. The teams that are leaving the Mountain West for the Pac-12 will be Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State. The Pac-12 only has a 2-year grace period, though, to have under 8 teams, and right now they are the 6-pack, pack of 6. But I don't know. We'll see where that goes. But the fact of the matter is the Pac-12 should have never been messed with, and conference realignment and these shameless money grabs for media deals are ruining college athletics. While the Pac is back, woo! The teams being added will not make it return to its former glory as a Power 5 conference like the SEC or the Big Ten are. It'll just feel like the Mountain West with a cooler conference name. And they don't really have a media deal besides the one with Wazoo and Oregon State that they have with CW. So if they're not getting paid and if they can't find a media deal by 2026, then it might just fall apart all over again, and then all 6 of these teams are screwed.
I agree.
We'll see how that goes. I hate conference realignment. I'm Dominic Pasella. This is Madison Holder, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.